In this video, we're going to be talking about custody. Custody is the ability of Prime Trust accounts to hold, send, and receive crypto assets. To get the list of assets, you can use the Get Assets endpoint. It's helpful to use a few filters on this endpoint so that you get only working assets in the sandbox. The first of these is filter globally available is true and transferable is true. And also, to ensure you don't get any test assets that are not fully ready to be used, there's an internal flag that should be set to false, and requires manual deposit should also be set to false. When you send this request, the most important piece of data that you're looking for is the asset ID. This will be required for creating asset transfer methods. You will also need the asset transfer types. In this case, we're looking at an Ethereum type asset, which is AVAX on the Fuji testnet. So we are going to create an incoming asset transfer method for AVAX in the sandbox. I previously have saved the asset ID in the Postman environment, so I have that pulled in here. We are also going to be using the contact ID and the account ID for an account that we've previously set up. The asset transfer type is set to Ethereum for this type of asset. Transfer direction is incoming. This will generate a new unique wallet address for the Prime Trust account. And this label is just for your humans who are going to be reading this data and need to know what this asset transfer method is. You can also set this up so it's readable in your UI if needed. Single use false is something we'll talk about when we talk about cost basis. It's not required, and the default value is actually false. All right, so the most important part that we're looking at here is that we have a wallet address that has been created, and the transfer direction is incoming. I'm going to copy this wallet address, and I'm going to go to an Avalanche test wallet on the Fuji testnet. We are going to send some Avalanche on the C chain. The address I pasted here was the one that was created in the asset transfer method. I'm going to send this transaction. And we get a hash. And we can see that our transaction was successfully sent. You will also be able to see this on the Avalanche Snowtrace Testnet Explorer. We see that that transaction was successful, and there's been 8 block confirmations. You only need 1 block confirmation for it to show up in your Prime Trust account. Now, if we go back to the sandbox, we were using this account here. If we go to view the assets, we see now we have a quarter AVAX in this account, total balance. The available balance is showing as 0. So we can click through this to take a view. We see here's our human readable description for this asset transfer method. This is the label that we included in the asset transfer method. And here you see this is data that was actually inserted from the blockchain for this 0.25 AVAX that we sent into the sandbox. If I refresh the page here, we should see that the unavailable is now available. And we do. The reason for that is that the contingent hold is briefly on the transfer and it's asynchronously removed. If we go to take a look at the webhooks that were generated from this transaction, we will see 1, 2, 3, 4 webhooks were generated. The first webhook is on the contact. And if we open this up, we see that contact was AML cleared. So the AML check was created and you received a webhook for that. The next webhook is type asset transfers. If we look at the changes on this one, we can see there was a variety of data that was updated as this asset transfer was created. Most importantly, the status was updated. We know that this, because it landed from the blockchain, that the status was automatically settled. And if you were to retrieve this asset transfer using the resource ID right here, you will be able to see the values of all of these data points that changed and generated this webhook. There is a contingent hold webhook that arrived. It says cleared at and status fields have changed. This is the removal of the contingent hold that is the reason for the balance being shown as unavailable for a short amount of time. And the final one on the asset transfer here is that the contingencies cleared on field was updated after the contingencies were cleared. So now this is the sequence of webhooks you can expect both in sandbox and in production when you have an incoming asset transfer.